you can work as hard as you want, but if you're not taking care of your body and your mind, then all of this work over here doesn't matter, because eventually you're going to burn out and none of that's going to matter. At my events, I really try to create space that makes it comfortable to meet other people in non-threatening ways, and ways that aren't just like, hi, I'm Brittany, here's my card. Stuff that's just like fun and conversational, where you get to know somebody on a different level than you would typically think of in a business setting. As long as I have the mindset of like, I don't have all of my stuff together. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm asking questions, I'm reading books, learning and growing. For me, that's success.
Welcome back to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. This podcast is all about showcasing and sharing the people and stories in Northeast Indiana. Today, Callie and I got to sit down with the lovely Brittany Scott, who is the founder and CEO of WIWO. GROW stands for Growing Remarkable Opportunities with Women. As a solo entrepreneur herself, she found that the resources for women were lacking, and so she wanted to change that. GROW provides resources, networking opportunities, and education to women in Indiana. They're actually hosting a conference right here in Fort Wayne very soon. If after listening to this conversation, you or someone you know is interested in attending this conference, we have a special promo code just for our listeners in the description below that'll get you discounted ticket prices, so be sure to check that out. Along with sharing about the upcoming conference, she also shares about how she transformed her educational degree into a powerful business, what she loves most about her work, and how she overcame personal obstacles in achieving her goals. Take it away, Callie.
Brittany Scott, welcome to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, let's just dive right into it. Okay. You have a really, really cool, to me, career journey from college on. There's a lot of things going on, and I just want to dive into it and hear all about it. So can you just start us off by walking us through a little bit, what you study in school and how that journey got you to where you are today?
Sure. I did. I have had quite the wide variety of life experiences. And if you had asked me 5 years ago if this is where I would be, I would say absolutely not. But here we are. So in college, I studied education. So I have an education degree. And I was a college athlete. My dad was a college basketball coach. So that was I had to play sports, right?
Had to.
So I played volleyball and basketball in college. And so when I graduated, I went to school in Wisconsin. I moved to Atlanta, and I taught and coached at a school down there. So I taught middle school history. I love middle schoolers. Usually I get some kind of groaning response.
I was going to say, I think they get a bad reputation sometimes. So.
I think they're so funny, right? They're young enough that they still think school is cool, but you don't have to hold the Kleenex for them to blow their nose, right?
Yeah, it's a good balance.
Yeah. So I taught middle school, and then I coached varsity sports. So I taught at a private school. So I love that. I did that for 4 years and loved it. But then I also love to travel. So I quit my job and I went and lived in the Netherlands for a year. And this was kind of piggybacked on my senior year of college. I student taught in England, so I didn't student teach in the U.S. either. So that really kind of shaped how I was and taught as a teacher. So love that experience. And then 4 years into teaching, I was like, I love this, but I don't want to be stuck doing this forever. And so I actually nannied over there. The dad was the mayor of the city, and he had twin 9-year-olds and an 11-year-old.
Wow.
And they spoke no English, and I spoke no Dutch. So the first 3 months were very interesting. I cried every single day because it was so hard. But I ended up making some really great friends. I played volleyball for their city team over there, stayed there for a year. And when I came back, I started working for an insurance company. I came back a little bit too late in the year to teach again. And so I just kind of got a temp job as a stopgap. And then, so I worked for this insurance company, ended up staying there for 6 years. And during that time, I got certified as a strength and conditioning coach through the NSCA. I loved coaching and I liked the strength and conditioning part of it. So I wanted to work with college volleyball players. And so I got that certification. After I did work with college volleyball players briefly. And then I did a certification on pregnancy and postpartum. And I was like, oh, I have been an athlete my whole life. I didn't know any of this. And so I got certified, started my own business doing that. This was all while I was still working for the insurance company.
You were busy.
Yes. And so through a series of unfortunate events, I ended up getting fired from the insurance company for starting the personal training stuff on the side. So my original boss knew, she got really sick, had to leave. The new boss didn't know. The day he found out, he fired me.
Did he say, like, why?
Just that it was against policy and that he didn't know. So it was an interesting day. But I was very kind of as a screw you to them, turned my personal training into my full-time thing. Mm-hmm. I still do that now, and then started Grow, which I think is why I'm here. But Grow with Women is a conference company that does networking and conferences for women in business, originally around the state of Indiana, but we're expanding into Milwaukee this year. So
that's exciting.
Yeah. So that's a little smattering of all the things I've been involved with over the years. But
so was it just you talked about you got a certification in like postpartum, things like that. Mm-hmm. Was that what made you get the certification? Like what made you interested in that area?
Yeah, so it's kind of like being a teacher. Like you have to get CEUs to stay a personal trainer.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, at some point, like I'll be pregnant or one of the girls, like volleyball team, like will get pregnant. And so this is probably just good information for me to know. And then I was like, oh, if I as an athlete my whole life thought I knew a lot about like what I was doing with my body and I didn't know this, then like moms having babies that aren't athletes don't know this either. So it's a lot with like core and pelvic floor stuff. I always say, if you pee your pants when you laugh, sneeze, cough, jump, that's a very common like mom experience. Then that's what I deal with. I deal with a lot of like diastasis and prolapse and incontinence and all those kind of things. So
do you feel like that knowledge in that area is something that kind of like yourself, when you're starting to learn about it, that people are surprised, like, oh, I can't believe I didn't realize this or didn't know that this was something to think about?
Oh, for sure. I hear it all the time, like, because we're not ever taught that, even in school, right? Like, there's a lot about, like, general information about bodies, but not about, like, female bodies in particular and how they function, how hormones affect them, and how labor and delivery affect them, and all the things. And so, most people don't find me until they're postpartum, because that's when they're like, oh, now I want to lose weight, or my body is all messed up and I don't know what's going on. But I often hear, like, I wish I had found you, like, before I had any kids so that I knew, all this stuff going into it. But yeah, it's fun. For me, I love teaching. And so both what I do as a personal trainer and with Grow is like a form of teaching, just not in the classroom. So it's fun for me.
Yeah, as someone who has gotten back from maternity leave and just had my first kid, I definitely have experienced it's not talked about, and you really don't encounter it until you've experienced it or been maybe formally educated in like an aspect of that. But yeah, it is that kind of, even though it was maybe personally interesting to you and you're like, oh, this is, other people need to know this, was that kind of what motivated you, was being like, hey, this is a topic that I don't think is out there, and I kind of want to be someone who like fills that gap?
Yeah, and that's exactly how it was. I actually don't have any kids, which shocks people, like that I got into this field. But at the time that I got certified, a lot of my friends were having kids and dealing with a lot of the things that I saw, like as I was going through the course, or the certification. And so I was like, oh, it's just kind of like a gap in women's healthcare that needed to be filled. And so it's kind of like, so postpartum, right? In the first 6 weeks, the doctor's like, don't pick up anything that's more than 20 pounds. How many people have a 30-pound toddler, right? Like you can't not pick them up for 6 weeks. Like that's just not. And so a lot of what I do is kind of between doctor's advice and between physical therapy advice, and kind of bridging that gap between like how do we actually function with the instructions that we're being given in these different spaces in real life.
Yeah, and every single person and situation is just so uniquely different. Like
Yeah.
the general advice and the stereotypes do not fit everybody.
Correct.
And so I just think that's awesome that you're kind of that in-between person to be like, hey, let me look at your specific situation and see what generally they say, and then let's bridge that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's super fun.
Because I remember even when you were going through all those things, you mentioned something like, you know, everyone on the internet has a different opinion on basically every facet of like motherhood and like pregnancy and a postpartum as well and things like that. So I'm sure, a resource like you would be really helpful to kind of like, here's all the noise up here. Let's bring it down to like my situation and how can this practically look for me.
And this is... You know, this might be too personal or TMI or whatever. I can cut it out later. But yeah, I feel like just an example of that, just not having a lot of education in that is I just had like the stereotype, maybe it was through social media or movies or whatever, that it was just 6 weeks of healing. Like, you know, like after 6 weeks you were good. Yeah. And it wasn't until talking to a friend who had also gone through that and I hit the 6-week mark and my doctor was like, hey, you know, that's all from me. Okay. See you if you ever get pregnant again. Yeah. And I was like, I don't feel okay. Right. And her being like, yeah, no, 6 weeks is like where you technically can like lift things and do things by doctor's orders, but it doesn't mean you're done healing. Yeah. So I just feel like even knowing that was super like, it gave me a lot of freedom to let myself have grace in that, like, hey, I don't feel like in the movies when they're like, just bounce back. So
yeah, no, that's such a dangerous like mindset, I think. And if you think practically, like, it takes 9 months for you to make the baby, it only makes sense that it takes at least that long for your body to heal.
Oh, 100%. So, yeah. And then also, I'm not sure if you had brought this up before, but the whole, like, shebang.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. The whole shebang is, I co-founded that with a friend of mine. It was really her vision, Felicia Lewis. She's very passionate about women's health and wellness. And so she came to me and a couple other friends at the time, but she and I co-founded it and was just like, I want an event that brings together, like, all the health and wellness resources in our community because I think women don't know. So we bring traditional kind of like doctors and hospitals and physical therapists, but we have like acupuncturists and chiropractors and like kind of non-traditional modalities as well for women to kind of see all the things that are available to them to help them, like whatever your journey looks like, whatever you want it to be, it can be. And these are all available to you in our community. So it's really fun.
Love kind of the connection to mental health, physical well-being, but also almost like, you know, entrepreneurship and owning a business. And those two things really do kind of go hand in hand. You kind of, in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, you probably really need to take care of your body and make sure like your mental health is in a good spot or else you can't accomplish the things that you want. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. And I talk about that a lot at our conferences that we do with Grow. Is that it's a fun way for me to kind of bring all of those things together. We have breakout sessions throughout the day, like a typical kind of conference. And then I always say at each breakout session time, we have one like woo-woo session. So we've had things on menstrual cycles, we've had dietitians, we've done sound baths, we've done yoga, we've done meditation, like all different kinds of things to address you as a whole person. And so, because you're right, to your point, you can work as hard as you want, but if you're not taking care of your body and your mind, then all of this work over here doesn't matter because eventually you're going to burn out and none of that's going to matter. So taking care of you as a whole person is so important, and it's a fun way to kind of bring all that together.
From what you've shared about your story, you know, in college, going to the Netherlands, being on the volleyball team as well while you were there, and then also just running all these businesses, how do you avoid burnout? Like, what does managing all of that look like for you?
That is an excellent question. I've definitely teetered on the edge of that multiple times because especially towards the end of every year since Grow started, because we have events all throughout the year. So by the last conference, our last conference last year was at the end of October. And honestly, for most of November and December, I did the bare minimum of like work. And I didn't feel like working on Grow. I really didn't. And I think that that's something that's important to be talked about because I think sometimes people think when you're really passionate about it, when it's something you really love and enjoy, you just want to do it all the time. And while sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. Like if you're close to burnout, like give yourself a break and let yourself just do the bare minimum and exist, right? And so, yeah, to answer your question, I am very religious about my own like fitness. If I don't get that in, I notice a really big difference in my own mental health. And that's not just going to the gym, it's also getting outside. So I have 2 German Shepherds and I walk them for 30 minutes outside every day, no matter what. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, sleeting, it doesn't matter. And it's funny how all of the like, you know, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, hot girl walks, whatever you call them, like it is a thing. Like I can feel so upset about something or discouraged about something, and just like being outside and getting exercise just changes that perspective. It might not solve the situation, right? But it's going to alter how I'm thinking about it because it's going to help my mental health. So my fitness, being outside, I'm pretty religious about my bedtime. I get up pretty early because I personal train pretty early. So usually I'm up around 3 or 3:30. So
that's more than early. That's very, very early.
I was thinking like 6 a.m., 5:30.
Yeah.
So when's your bedtime then?
About between 7 and 8. If I can
Okay.
be in bed by 8, that's usually, I'm pretty good with that. It doesn't always happen, right? But I say no to a lot of things in the evening to protect my own sanity. And I think that's another thing about avoiding burnout is at the beginning I said yes to almost everything. And now I try to be really calculated, not in a bad way, but in like a self-preservation way about what I say yes to, and being willing to say no to things that I feel like are going to infringe on my mental health or my sleep or whatever.
Was that a hard process to go through?
It's the worst. I'm like a people pleaser by nature, and so telling people no is very hard for me. It's definitely like a skill, right? Kind of like networking or any other resilience, anything like that. Learning to say no and doing it in a way that feels aligned with your own values is a skill you have to develop.
So jumping in, I was getting a little ahead of myself. So jumping back into Grow, how did that get started? Where did that stream of passion come from?
Yeah. So as I kind of described early on, I have worked for myself. I've worked for other people. I've taught. I've worked in the corporate world. And in no context did I ever feel like I had the resources I needed to have the career I wanted. I used to teach 12-year-olds, right? So like working in the corporate world, I had no idea what I was doing. And looking back, I'm like, they should have paid me way more than they paid me, and I should have had way better benefits than I had. But I didn't know. Like, I didn't know I could negotiate. I didn't know how to track my own value. And then definitely like starting my own business also. I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. Like every day is like, well, we're going to figure it out today. And so Grow is really my attempt to give women what I wish I had, both as an entrepreneur and like someone working in the corporate setting. So it's just bringing together like people and resources to connect everybody to things they need, because any opportunity I've had, particularly as an entrepreneur, has been because of a relationship, not because of something I knew or something wonderful I did. I've done a lot of stupid things. And so any opportunity I've had has been because of a person. And so I really believe in the value of creating space where people can meet and create like genuine connection. I'm very introverted by nature. And so
Interesting.
Yeah, I love people, and I love events. Obviously, I own a conference company, but I'm very introverted by nature. And so if I go to somebody else's networking event, I will find you and I will sit next to you and I'll talk to you, and there can be 100 people in that room and I won't meet any of them because that's uncomfortable. And so, like I just mentioned, networking I think is a skill that you develop and can learn. So I've gotten better at it. But at my events, I really try to create space that makes it comfortable to meet other people in non-threatening ways, and ways that aren't just like, hi, I'm Brittany, here's my card. We're talking about like, what's your favorite podcast? What book have you read recently? Like, if you had an extra hour in the day, what would you do with it? Like stuff that's just like fun and conversational, where you get to know somebody on a different level than you would typically think of in a business setting.
Yeah. So what does a conference look like? Kind of walk me through that. What are you hoping that people get out of it? What kind of partnerships or relationships can they expect to make there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want them to meet other people from their community there. That's my whole mission. I often say from the stage, in 2 weeks, you aren't going to remember me. You're not going to remember most of what we talked about, but what you are going to remember are the people that you met here today. And I usually give them some kind of like, at the end of the day, if you can meet with, like, pick 1 or 2 people that you met today and schedule like coffee with them or lunch with them or whatever. So I do want to give them resources. I want to give them valuable information. We always bring in really great speakers, both the keynote and the breakouts. And I think people do derive a lot of value from that. But honestly, my biggest thing behind it is connecting them to each other and giving them a space to meet and interact in fun ways.
Yeah, I was thinking on our call, you had said something to the effect of like, it's like a regular conference but fun. and I was like, that sounds like something I want to go to.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, why is it so important for Grow? Like, why did you decide to do like an all women's conference versus just like any other conference that, helps people connect with others?
Yeah, because I think women face challenges that men don't. Men typically don't have a problem negotiating raises or asking for more or applying for a job that they're highly underqualified for, right? Like, but women, if you've ever seen that LinkedIn study about like men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the qualifications, women will only apply for a job if they meet 100% of them. And so women tend to face some challenge, and the whole if men stand up for themselves, they're, confident and they have a lot of authority. If women do, they're bad words, and they're mean and catty and all the things. And so there are just some like workplace challenges that I think women face that men don't. And so to give us a space to like talk about those and also remove some of those stereotypes. I think a lot of times in workplaces in particular, women are pitted against each other, and that's why so much like cattiness and stuff develops. And I just think that's so unnecessary. Like, we all just need to be here for each other. Like, there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody to grow. There's room for everybody to advance. And so giving people a space, women in particular, a space to come together to be like, oh no, we're all on the same team. We're facing the same challenges. How can we help each other is really important to me and part of why Grow exists.
From what you know about the people who attend your conferences, what is kind of the spectrum of careers that you see attend?
Yeah, our typical target audience is 35 to 60-year-old women, and we usually end up with a pretty even like 50-50 split between entrepreneurs and women like in a career, like at a bank or a law firm or anything like that. And it's usually 50-50, 60-40. It's really close. And we end up with a lot of solopreneurs or small businesses with 10 or fewer employees. That's kind of our target. And then like middle management. So people who aren't necessarily entry level, not really CEOs, but they want the resources or the tools to take their career to the next level. That's why we talk a lot about negotiation and how to handle money and marketing and things like that. So they have the resources they need to take the next step in their career if they want to.
So for this conference, held in Fort Wayne, this year, April 7th, right?
Yep.
Very good. See, I remember all these
Nailed
things.
it.
What kind of topics are we tackling? What's the theme? What's going on this year?
Yeah. The theme this year is Cycles of Success. And the keynote is actually Felicia Lewis, who co-founded the whole shebang with me. So she is our keynote. And then we have all kinds of like really cool stuff. We've got Christy Browning, if you know her, from Content by Request here in Fort Wayne. She's talking about marketing. We've got Dr. Sherry Hampton Farmer talking about body language and like communication. We've got Jen Hostler. She's a physical therapist talking about like movement and how your body kind of guides you through movement, how to listen better to your body on a daily basis and move it in ways that feel good. What else do we have? We've got all kinds of stuff. Franklin Electric is doing a panel on like women's groups in larger companies, like how to start them and develop them. So yeah, we've got all kinds of really great like local speakers, which is going to be fun.
Would you say that part of the purpose of the conference, one, it's for the women who attend to kind of like take those resources and use them for themselves, but would part of the purpose also be to equip them to then bring resources to the company that they work at and maybe figure out a way for the company to support their needs as a woman more efficiently? Things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the breakout speakers is Ronnie Morgan, and she's doing her breakout session is on like disabilities in the workplace, and not just like physical disabilities, but like ADHD or autism. Like if you have those things and it's making you struggle at work or making you feel less than at work, how can you A, manage it yourself, but B, go back to your workplace and be like, this is how I work best, and this is what like the support I need from you to be a better employee. So yeah, for sure, there's for sure resources for them to take back in.
And then is it a part of your like company and organization to also take those resources to like corporate settings? Do you speak on those sort of things?
So Grow technically is me and my sister co-own Grow, but she lives in LA. So I do most of the speaking around Grow. I do have like a handful of topics that I speak to and get asked to speak on pretty regularly. Like I'm speaking for Franklin Electric next week. I did a thing for Three Rivers last month. So yeah, it's a fun way to kind of promote what we do with Grow and kind of give people a different perspective from like entrepreneur, especially those like bigger companies.
I had to interrupt the podcast to share the exciting news. We officially have our 2026 Pioneer nominees. Now, we will be announcing these soon, but in the meantime, my team and I are working behind the scenes to film and tell their pioneering stories. You might be wondering where you come in, and I'm glad that you want to know. We will be releasing the video series telling each pioneer story in the spring, along with opening up community voting to vote on each category winner. So we encourage everyone to first of all subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is where we're going to be posting the video series. After you've watched the series, be sure to go to pioneerstartshere.com to vote on the category winners. The category winners, as well as the 2026 Pioneer of the Year, will all be announced at our May Pioneer Awards event. So those are the 3 things for you to do. First of all, subscribe to our channel, watch the video series, and vote on your 2026 Pioneers. Now let's jump back into this podcast. We've been talking a lot about all the facets of your passions and how you kind of work them into all your businesses. So public speaking or just speaking into people in general seems to be kind of a theme amongst all of them. What do you enjoy about that? And if you had to give advice about that to people, what would you say?
Hey, especially as an introvert.
Yeah.
You're like, I love public speaking, but I'm an introvert.
They feel like they don't go, but you've made a whole career on it.
No, it seems very like contradictory. I think for me, it's again another version of teaching. It's funny that, to your point, as an introvert, when you're on stage or like in front, it's not. It is interacting with people, but it's not, right? So like, I'm pretty comfortable up in front of people just because of the whole like teacher mindset. I think. And I love people and I love interacting. I would say I'm an introvert in that like I recharge by myself. Yeah. So like after a conference, I'm like, okay, nobody talk to me for 2 days because I need to be by myself, right? But I love like interacting with people and being up. It's another way for me to educate. I think I've learned a lot from the mistakes that I've made, and so speaking for me is a lot of like, here are all the things that I have done wrong, and like here's how I learned from
and
them
how not to do them.
Exactly. Like, so hopefully you will not make the same mistakes that I made. So yeah, I think that's what I love about it, is that it's like a form of teaching again. That's fun for me to like use my own life experiences and things that I've gone through to help other people. Something that I end up using a lot is my experience with domestic violence. That's actually why I'm in Indiana. So I was living in Tennessee. I got married when I came back from the Netherlands, and we moved to Tennessee, and then COVID hit, which if you know anything about abusive relationships, COVID's about the worst thing that can happen because then you're like stuck in the house together all the time. And so in April of 2020, I told him, like, if you put your hands on me again, like, I'm going to leave and I won't come back. And at the time, he was threatening to kill my parents who lived in South Carolina. And so I couldn't go there because I didn't want to put them in danger. So I had an aunt who lived in Muncie, and he didn't know where she lived. And so that's why I came here in May of 2020. And still here 6 years later. And I just think I usually bring up some form of domestic violence in a lot of the speaking that I do because I think it's so much more common than people realize. And both like people who haven't experienced and people who have or are, to not feel alone and like, oh, we can get out of it. Like, it's not easy, but we can. And so that's another like part of women's wellness that I'm really passionate about is like identifying and getting women out of domestic violence situations. So often the responses I get are, I've been there too and I got out. I get a lot of those. I don't often get, I'm in the middle of it. If you've ever been in domestic violence, that's kind of a dangerous thing to actually talk about when you're in it. I get a lot of, I have a friend who's in it, how do I help them? And so those are usually the people who I'll hear from like consistently for a while we're trying to like help them navigate that kind of situation. But I think it's just so much more common than people think. And having the know-how around how to handle someone in that situation, I think is pretty important in helping them get out.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really cool that you're able to use, your experience to encourage others and help in that way.
Thanks.
How would you, success is a sticky word for some people. Some people don't like to use it at all. Some people have a very specific definition that they use for themselves. How would you define success for yourself or for your businesses or anything like that?
That is a great question. And I think for me, success is learning, growing, and changing. I think throughout my career and the different things I've done, the metrics of success have always changed, right? There's not one, if and when I ever get here, this means I'm successful. I've never really felt that. I think for me, as long as I have the mindset of like, I don't have all of my stuff together. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm asking questions. I'm reading books. I'm listening to podcasts or whatever it is, learning and growing. For me, that's success because I don't think any of us really know what we're doing. I think as a kid, you're like, I can't wait to be an adult and have it all figured out and like know all the answers. And then you get to an adult and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but nobody else does either. So we're all just out here like doing our best. But I think what I see a lot with adults is like complacency and you can get stuck in a rut, whether it's a job or personal or whatever. And so like a constant both learning professionally and personally is what kind of makes success for me, because I don't want to be stagnant as a human being in either of those aspects. It is a learned thing too. Like the first 6 months of Grow, I did have like, if I'm going to be telling other people what to do, like I've got to act like I've got it all together. And that was the most stressful 6 months of my life. And after 6 months, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was at that point, I say that all the time. If you ever look at our social media, like the videos I post, I'll often be like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And I say that a lot, like in networking things that I do. And so when I started admitting that I didn't know what I was doing and asking for help, that's when so many like really amazing resources and people came and like surrounded me. And I've got some really great like mentors, and I think you'll be surprised, like, if you ask how often people will be like, yeah, I'll help you. And I think sometimes we're just afraid to ask. And, yeah, so it was a learned thing. I made that mistake of pretending like I had it all together for a while. But once I admitted that I didn't, then, like, so much has opened up, and it's been really fun.
I do feel like that is just, like, a product of our culture, of just having everything about independence is kind of valued. Like, if you look at someone, whether it's through like the wall of like social media or just observing, like independence is kind of what is valued, but that doesn't breed relationship or community or anything like that. So if like if people don't feel like you need anything, then it's like there isn't a lot of connection there.
Right. That's such a good point.
Yeah, I feel like needing things or being honest or being vulnerable kind of invites all of those good things in, because you can be a lot stronger with a community and with people around you than just by yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it sounds like you learned a little bit, through trial and error, like having 6 months of like, trying to look like you got it together and then, being honest. What advice would you give for people who feel like they're in that, who like don't even know what the first step of like asking for help looks like, whether that's professionally or personally or just resource wise?
Yeah.
How would you encourage them?
Usually I say ask questions. I think, to your point, when we pretend like we have it all together, that's really hard for people to connect to, right? And so it wasn't until I was like, no, I have messed up so much. Because then that gives, if I say that, you can be like, oh, I did that too. Or like, I messed up. It creates like a connection. That vulnerability and authenticity creates space for connection, as opposed to like, no, I've got it all together, and if you don't, then you're a problem. Right? Like, so somehow as humans, we tend to like connect around like shared mistakes and failures. Anyways, so yeah, I think asking questions, both of yourself, like, what can I learn from the failure I just had? What could I have done differently? How could I have approached that differently? How could my mindset have been different? But also of people. I think lots of times, and this is how I started approaching networking, is I try to talk way less than I listen. So if I'm going to spend an hour with someone, I really only want to talk for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I want them to talk for the majority of the time. When people get to talk, they feel valued. You want them to walk away from the conversation feeling like you valued them and their time and their expertise. B, there's something you can learn from everyone. I don't care if they're younger than you, older than you, same industry, different industry, know nothing about you. There's something you can learn from everyone. And so asking questions about both their like professional journey as well as their personal journey. People love to share about their kids and their grandkids and their own like travels or whatever it is. I've gotten some like really random travel tips because I've traveled and I've asked other people about their travel, right? So that's a really great way to build connection and community, is by asking a lot of questions and listening and making people feel valued in your space.
My uncle always used to say, there's a reason we have 2 ears and only one mouth.
We got to use them in that order.
We got to listen more than we talk.
That's so true.
So if somebody has listened to this full conversation, they are just really excited about it, and they want to attend the conference or learn more about what you do, where can they find all that information?
They can find it at WIWO, WIWO.com. So Grow with Women is the name of the company. So we take the WI from with and the WO from women. So that's the Grow WIWO. So growwiwo.com has like all of our networking mixers, conferences that are coming up. All of that stuff's on there.
And then one more question before we get into the rapid wrap-up questions. Okay. What is next for you? Is there anything that you want to tackle next? I mean, you have a lot going on. So
that's a great question.
But even just within what you already have, is there any ways you want to grow, improve, change?
Well, one of my goals this year was to do some more speaking. I've done a lot of speaking like in and around Muncie. So now I've added a lot of like Fort Wayne for this year. It is something I do love doing and I'm really passionate about. So that's kind of been a goal. The goal for 2026 with Grow is always to take it outside of the state. So going to Milwaukee in the fall is going to be part of that. The big picture for Grow is that it's a nationwide company with conferences all around the country, and mixers that we end up franchising or having regional directors for or whatever. So that's kind of, I would say adding a couple states in the next couple years is what's next, is just kind of keep growing in the Midwest.
Very fun.
All right, let's jump into the rapid questions.
I'm nervous.
They don't have to be that rapid.
Yeah. It just sounds nice. So, are you a lake person or a hiking person?
Ooh. Probably a lake person because I don't want to get poison ivy.
It's fair.
Yeah. and I don't know what's gonna give me poison ivy. Like, don't
wanna
if
risk
you're
it.
green,
All
yeah,
poison
like
ivy
don't
in
touch
my
it.
eyes.
Yeah.
Very small funny story. My husband was working as a like landscaping groundskeeper kind of person once, and he had this app, that scans for plants.
Yeah.
And so he was like scanning them, and it was nothing, and then he scanned one, and he was just holding it, and it was like poison ivy. He's like, oh great.
Oh.
Maybe I should have picked that one up before I scanned it. You probably should have just scanned
Did he
on the
get
ground.
it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
He got it a couple times that summer, but anyway, yeah.
Oh.
Poison ivy you don't want to mess around with.
Yeah, no.
Can't be too careful.
I will have it for 6 weeks. It's awful.
Sweetwater Gear Fest or Vera Bradley Outlet Sale?
I do play the piano, so I'm like a music
Ooh.
person. I would say probably Vera though. I'm a shopper, so yeah.
I love a good
Say sign
sale.
me up for that. Yeah.
What is your favorite Northeast Indiana regional like treat? Within we're a team, we're big sweet treat people. So what's your favorite?
Yeah, if you're coming to Northeast Indiana, I don't know, sort of like a ice cream or something, fun coffee.
That is a great question and a terrible question for me because I have, unfortunately, so many dietary restrictions.
Callie has a place for you.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe I can have a new place.
I was gonna say maybe
then.
we'll recommend a place.
Yeah,
I will
give me one.
recommend. It's called Moo Over, and they do bakery items and ice cream, but it's like the top 9 or something allergen free. So no dairy. I can't do dairy or peanuts, and there's also no gluten. And so they've got like all kinds of fun
And
ice
it's
creams
really good.
and like
Maybe
sweet
we
treats.
should go there when we're done.
I think that would be a good idea, or at least when you're here for the conference, maybe pop
Yes.
over there in the middle of the
Yes.
day for a treat.
we should get.
It's
them
a
at the
little local
conference.
spot.
That'd be so
Yeah.
cool. Nice.
It's really
Anyway.
good. Anyway, sorry.
Last question. Hopefully this one is less of a curveball. What is your favorite part of the Grow conference? Like if there's a favorite aspect, what is it?
I know exactly what it is. Usually at the beginning of the day, I do like introductory stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then we have an activity and where they have to get up out of their seats and they have to talk to people they don't know. They all look different. Every activity is different. I structure them that way on purpose. But those two aspects are always the same. And watching the moments of hesitation, of like nervousness and like, I really don't want to do this. And like, she's making me go talk to people I don't know. And then like watching that shift of them like going and finding people they don't know, and then conversations happening and like laughing and connections and people like giving each other cards or like sharing resources. Like I love that more than anything. Like I live for that, listening to people like talk and make connection. It's my favorite part of any conference. I love it so much.
Yeah.
That's fun. And I'm gonna throw in another one.
Sure.
If you had to give like your top, like I don't know, networking tip, like something that people can take away from this to help in their networking.
Maybe
journey.
something
Yeah.
you learned, because I know
Yeah.
you had said that was something you grew in.
Yeah. Asking questions, which I kind of already talked
Yeah.
about. But like putting yourself out there. So I made a LinkedIn post about this like recently because I get asked a lot because I'm an introvert. Like, how did you start networking if that was like, if you're so introverted? So I just started finding events and showing up. So I forced myself to go talk to people I didn't know and ended up meeting some really great people by asking a lot of questions and then like taking people out. So like, will you meet me for coffee or will you go out to lunch or whatever it is? It's awkward and it's uncomfortable, and no one who's introverted or ambivert or whatever, who's not an extrovert, enjoys that. But yeah, like just finding events, putting yourself out there, go talk to somebody you don't know and ask questions. It's simple, but it's not easy. 'Cause it's not the same thing. So yeah, I don't know if that's super helpful, but that's what I did.
Yeah,
Well, that's great.
So.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, thank you for being on the show. This was really this was a fun conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Yay,
I feel like
me
I learned
too.
a lot. If you want to attend the Grow conference or see any of the mixers going on or just see what Brittany is up to, we'll have some links in the description. Thank you guys for watching the show.